I don't know if you guys remember, but it used to be the saying was like, what happens in my own bedroom is in my own bedroom. Why are you forcing your morals on me? Well, those days, I mean, the scales have completely flipped. This message of equity and inclusivity and LGBTQ pride are being rammed down our throat. And that's why it's important for us to be equipped and prepared. That's why it's important. These are the three principles, right, that I just talked about. That's why it's important for us to slow down and think introspectively, right? That's what Paul tells us to live vigilantly, for the days are particularly evil, is what he says. And what he's saying there is he's saying that we want to live circumspectly. We want to be eyes wide open towards the world, and we want to be thoughtful not only about what's happening out there, but what's happening in our own hearts and in our own minds and our own souls. When we're confronted with the lies of the culture, when we're confronted with these things that are abhorrent. I mean, they are. I don't want to say offensive, because I think Christians should be the least offendable people on the planet. We've got Jesus Christ, so we should. It should be hard to offend us. But these ideas are really pressing in on our worldview, and we want to stop and slow down and kind of introspect and say, why am I feeling this way? Do I have an understanding of the issue? Do I understand the people behind the issue? And are my reactions knee-jerk, or am I actually thoughtful in my reactions? And then when we slow down, we're able to, it's amazing. We're able to respond, I think, much more effectively. And then we're not in these, I don't ever want to get in a battle of slogans, like throwing mud at each other, because you both just end up getting dirty. And that's not where, that's number one, we can't ever win, because the world can go places that we can't. And in that kind of game, like, we don't ever want to be vindictive, and we don't ever want to be cruel or harsh. And if there's no love, then our message, even if it's the correct message, is just white noise. We all know this scripture too. This is Paul in Corinthians, right? If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I've become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all the mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing, is what Paul says. He goes on, and if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. And on the other hand, guys, if we focus on developing deep relationships with people we disagree with, our responses will become multidimensional instead of one-dimensional, and they'll come from a place of love for the actual person. So you see what happens there when we form these relationships. What happens is we become engaged with a person, and we become loving of that person, instead of just pressing against an ideology. We become for a person, and I think this is important. And then we also understand the context that they find themselves in a little bit better, and then that kind of presses into our own shallow understanding of maybe where they're coming from. You see, Jesus, he focused on developing deep relationships with sinners. If you think about it, right? Many of his harsh words were actually reserved for the religious establishment, who ignored or even shunned the cultural outcasts. And are we being like the religious establishment? Again, I'm being hard on us. I know I'm being hard on us up front, but I think it's worthy or good, I guess, to be hard on us, right? When we slow down and review our personal understanding of the issue here, Pride Month, and move toward the individual instead of offering pithy memes and Twitter responses, we see movement in the lives of the individual, which is gospel work. Remember, the gospel's relational, and God saves individuals, not movements. So social media comments, guys, let me remind you also, social media comments, that's not relationship. And it's not helpful to remain in our Christian bubbles complaining to each other about the sin of the world. At some point, we have to get outside of those comfortable circles and actually engage the people behind the issues we disagree with, which leads me to my next point. Jesus told us to love God and to love others. These are the two greatest commandments. Unfortunately, there's two ways people misunderstand what it means to love someone. First, many people think loving someone means affirming or accepting all that they do. According to a lot of people, those who don't affirm LGBTQ plus values and or celebrate Pride Month are unloving. Right? Taking it a step further, many people think if just because someone speaks out against an ideology or construct in the culture, They're therefore not only unloving, but actually hateful. And this is just blatantly false. Total acceptance is not love. And just because someone speaks out against the idea or ideology or any other aspect of someone's life doesn't mean they hate the person. In many instances, total acceptance can be the opposite of love, and offering a critical word of encouragement or a critical word in general or advice is the loving thing to do. I have a perfect example from my own life. I used to be friends with a young lady who, she had a best friend. And when I asked her, and I was an atheist at the time, I remember asking her, like, why are you friends with this girl? She seems to be getting you kind of in trouble all the time and supportive of like really awful behavior. And she said, I'm friends with her because she loves me no matter what I do, and she encouraged me in it. She supports me no matter what I do. And I remember thinking in my mind, even as an atheist, not even a Christian, I remember thinking, well, that's not loving, because you're doing really harmful things to your own body and to the people around you. That's not love at all. So first, the first misunderstanding of love is it's not total acceptance. Second, loving someone's not, and this is the second misunderstanding, loving someone is not merely tolerating them. We don't tolerate someone we love. We might tolerate their ideas or behaviors, but we're called to love the person. This is genuine love that finds its beginning in the fact that every single person is made in the image of God. And for that reason, and that reason alone, they're of infinite dignity and value and are worthy of being loved. Reminding ourselves of these things helps us have the right motivation or motive to confront the false and harmful ideas out in the culture. Lastly, with love as our motivation, so slow down, right? We want to slow down and get to know the people. We want to get to know the people so that we can love the people. And the last thing is, with the love as our motivation, now we can confront the lies of the culture. You know, Paul says that let love be without hypocrisy. And then he goes on to say, so he's going to be talking about what it means to love somebody here in Romans, right? But then right smack dab in the middle of this passage, he says this, he says, abhor what is evil, cling to what is good, be devoted to one another in brother love, give preference to one another in honor. The key concept of love is confronting evil. Love doesn't boast at all in anything, and it most certainly doesn't boast in evil. Sin is unacceptable to God, and therefore the Christian has to be responsible, has a deep responsibility to confront sin out in the culture, to confront evil out in the culture. You see, Paul confronted the sexual sin of the Corinthian church. He said to them, love does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. You see, the loving thing to do is to hold fast to the truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. This includes our sexual identities and behaviors. And Tim Barnett, through Red Pen Logic, posted something just like, I just saw it on social media, on Facebook, right before I hopped on this video. And he said something, love does not celebrate sin. So love does not celebrate, gay pride. It does not attend gay pride parades. Love does not go into and support these types of things. That's not what love is. And I really want to be clear here, because I started off tough on us, tough on the Christian, because I think it's important. I think oftentimes we get the issue right, but the way that we address it, or the tactic, I don't love. But I want to be clear. It is impossible, friends, it is impossible for the Christian to celebrate Pride Month. The Christian doesn't encourage aberrant sexual behavior. Any sexual identity outside the male-female paradigm is outside of God's plan for human flourishing. Any sexual activity outside of the context of one man, one woman for one lifetime is outside God's plan and design for sex. These things are not good. They're not righteous, and they are not true. The Christian, he calls his neighbor to their true identity as image bearers. How do we confront the lies? We call people higher. We remind them of who they are. But basically, even before they're Christian, you are a bearer of God's image.